They're totally different things. Mysticism is the word we use to describe people who are trying to seek spiritual enlightenment and think there is such a thing as spiritual enlightenment, and think that by seeking spiritual enlightenment, they somehow get into an eternal state of being. I think that's a pretty good definition. I couldn't do a better one. Probably wouldn't find a better one in Webster's dictionary either. But that was on the spur of the moment, on the run, if you like. So that's what they do. A man leaves his old garment and puts on one that is new. The spirit leaves the mortal body and puts on a new being. You know something? If you've ever read the Christian New Testament and got as far as Paul in 1 Corinthians, how many have read 1 Corinthians in this room? And at the end of 1 Corinthians, Paul talks about changing your body, that you don't die, that you go into a different state of being. That's exactly what he's talking about here. There is hardly a stitch of difference, because Paul is a mystic. He really is, and that's where he shows that he's involved in these mystic religious ways of thinking about things. But I think it's 1 Corinthians 15.
1 Corinthians 15, 40 through 42,
Yeah.
probably.
So you could probably...
That's the one that like a bunch of different religions like all debate over, like whether or not like they go up to heaven, or like whether there's
Yeah,
like
you
three
will be
different heavens or
changed.
whatever.
Basically, you'll put on a different clothing, and you know, I'm going to tell you a heavenly mystery, he says, a heavenly secret. And so it's almost, so you know your Bible, and this is almost exactly the same. So this gentleman here, there's another example of someone who would know something as well as a teacher. There are some people who have certain areas of knowledge that they've staked out pretty well, and they'll know more than give a lecture on a given subject. So don't ever be over-impressed by a person standing before you. There's probably someone in the room who knows more about a given thing. In any case, this idea of putting on a different body and becoming eternal and leaving the old one behind and so on is widespread across all of Europe and into Asia at this time. Very widespread. In the West it was called Neoplatonism, and it was very strong in Alexandria in Egypt. Neoplatonism means the new Platonism. And there are a lot of religious groups that plugged into this ideology. By the way, Paul, as you may know, is not just a mystic. He claims to be having mystic visions, as he calls them in his writings, apocalypsios. In Greek, the word for vision is apocalypsis. He says, if you look at the Greek, he says, and I had this apocalypsios. I had this vision of the Christ in heaven and so on. So he's constantly having visions. People, by the way, have visions worry me, but to me they're usually looking at, the vision is usually themselves that they're seeing in some supernatural state. But anyway, this is very widespread, putting on a new garment, leaving the body. So these people are not interested in social injustice. They want to get out of suffering, their own suffering. They're very egocentric in their approach to salvation or spiritual well-being. They're not interested in social well-being particularly, though they want the society to be orderly here, but that's the most he wants. He's not interested if someone's suffering, because as far as he's concerned, there is no suffering. You can get out of suffering if you follow this book. So suffering is something you can deal with, if you follow what I'm saying. There is no killing. I mean, if you're a warrior, you're not killing anyone. If there's suffering, you're not suffering if you know how to get out of it. So this is what the Enlightenment is aimed at, and it's very much, I personally don't like these religions much, but that's only because I'm born in the West. I think they're harmless. I don't think they're really hurting anybody. And they teach people how to bear misery, so I think that's a good thing. But to my mind, they don't really work me up into a state of spiritual excitement, but they don't want to. They want to calm you down. So, I think there are good things to it. I mean, you won't get high blood pressure in this religion. It'll slow you down, it'll calm you down, and you'll start to do the meditation process and stuff like that. So yeah.
I have 1 Corinthians 15:42.
Go ahead.
So it will be with the resurrection of the dead. The body that is sown is perishable, imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body.
Now, I'm talking about when he puts on a new form of body there. Anyway, it's a long passage, so I appreciate that, but